Now we bring this into an even tighter tolerance. So that's what we got now. I managed to get this mahogany stock down to just a little proud of 1/4 of an inch. In most cases it's anywhere from 1/4 to 5/16. This is the stock for the splines. One of my longtime subscribers recently asked about how do you find the correct location for the guitar in the neck surgery jig. How do you position it? This end, which is the shallower arch, sometimes I'll start on this end, but in most cases the shallow part of the arch goes towards the body or the top end of the neck. This end where there's a steeper sweep, this can be adjusted up or down depending on where you want to locate the splines. For the last 6 neck surgeries, this has worked perfectly for me, so I've kind of left that alone. Universally, I pretty well cinch the guitar between the first and second set of holes, so between the E and A string and the high E and B string. Of course, the other option is you can control the depth of the cutter on the actual router itself. Now on this end I have that large spring clamp and a piece of hockey puck, and it grips the underside of the main frame and pulls this end of the neck tight down against the aluminum U-channel that straddles across the 1/4-20 rod on the bottom. I should mention too that that aluminum U-channel, I always make sure that I locate it in between the frets so it's resting on the fingerboard. and that ensures that the neck is level in the jig. Now to get my center locate, I go through the window. It's like 39 millimeters, just a hair under 4 centimeters. Go to the other side, same thing. So on this end we've got 42 millimeters or 4.2 centimeters. So we've got 4.1. This can actually move over a little bit, so I'm going to do that now. I'll show you how I adjust that. So we want to nudge the neck over this way a little bit. So as I tighten that outside nut, that pulls this plunger this way, and as I tighten the inside nut here, I don't know if the camera showed that moving or not. We got 42 millimeters and a little less than 42. So again, I'm going to tighten this one and then the inside one on this side. All these minute adjustments are well worth your while because it literally eliminates any guesswork. Before we flick the switch on the router, we know exactly where that cut is going to start and where it's going to stop. Now we're ready to make that first skim cut. So I do remove the bottom plate. Okay, the other question I've had people ask is, do I need to use a Bosch Colt? No, you don't. I've had lots of people sort of retrofit for Makita or DeWalt or whatever, but the thing is, the router sled is CNC'd for a perfect fit for the Bosch Colt. And, you know, pretty hard to argue with German engineering. The Bosch Colt, in my humble opinion, is the best one out there. And the other thing I should mention, the guide plate for the bridge slotting jig is also CNC'd for the Bosch Colt router. This sled I've been using for years. This one happens to be oak, but we've used oak or cherry or maple or some type of hardwood. And of course these slots index into the main frame of the neck surgery kit. Okay, let's get started. To adjust the depth of cut, I sight through the window of the main frame to get a clear idea of the sweep of the cutter. The deepest part of the cut, where it starts, and where it exits. So the indexing pin tells us how deep we can go. This is maximum. I've got a scrap piece of mahogany here. I just drew a line, and that tells us how deep that cutter can be adjusted. Now, you don't need to hog it out in one sweep. I do it in several skim cuts. Okay, we're well within the safety zone here. That will be the depth of our first cut. I normally just cut one side, glue in the spline, leave it overnight, and do the other side. But in the case of this particular repair, I used that hide glue to glue up the initial break, and then glued that solid quarter sawn maple overlay on the face. So in this case it is safe enough to do both cuts. This is where we start the process of using the tracer plate. I get that tracing off the side of the actual main frame. But when it comes to actually fitting the splines, I drop it in. You can see that it's rocking, which means it's got to come down in the center. I've got at least 20 videos showing this procedure on different guitars. So I'm going to need to skim that off a little bit with the 12-inch vertical disc sander that I control with a foot switch. I just kind of tap it and then skim this down, come back until we get that perfect fit. That is it. So just heated that up. And this is a quick tip for you guys that, all of you guys that have your neck surgery kits. I always leave the nut in because it allows me to come right up with the Dynabrade, the random orbital sander, and sand that hard maple overlay flat. It acts as a guard for the end of the fingerboard. Once that's done, then I'll put this in as a space saver, just give it a light sand, push it back in, so during the finishing process, the slot doesn't fill up with lacquer. Well, finessing the headstock to get it ready for paint is one of the most finicky parts of this whole task. So this is just a spring release. So I push these levers down and then this just drops down. So I set the guitar on this flip-up shelf, and that brings the headstock literally right up to nose level. So all of the finessing has been done. I've got that original nut taped in there. We're going to be replacing that plastic original nut with a Corian compensated nut anyway. It basically just prevents paint from flowing in there when you're spraying the lacquer. Now, for all of you guys that have your tech decks, your GPS model, the bolt on the opposite end actually protrudes past the floor, and that serves as a positive stop for the whole neck assembly. And that's how I'm quickly and easily able to orient the guitar straight up and down like that. So all of you guys that have your tech decks, now you know how I do this. It's this protruding fastener that acts as a positive stop for the neck assembly when you've got it in that vertical position.